Greetings, folks. Richard from KS Collectibles here once again. And I'm here to do a little review for you, a review of a play motion film. It's actually a full length feature film done by a guy named Mike the Hunter. He is a friend of ours who does some very awesome work with action figure photography, and as we're going to talk about today, actually movies. This is a full length 2 hour film that is available on his Patreon. It's not a subscription Patreon; it's a $10 fee to get the movie. That's a full 2 hours, and this is my review of letting you know whether it's worth it or not. This is actually very well done. It took him, I believe, a little over a year to do. He does the majority of the voices. It's all done with GI Joe classified action figures, as well as he builds sets. He takes it all around. Takes his toys all around the area to film, and in a wide variety of places, as well as does all the editing, all the filming himself. It's 99% of the legwork is all done by him. I know he has other people doing voicing with him, but for the most part, it's mostly Mike's, and he incurs all the cost of the sets, the action figures, everything that's being used in these films. And I know because I sold him a lot of the like some of the background stuff and things like that. And I always keep an eye out for certain things, props to help him out a bit. This is actually his second film done with the GI Joe classified figures. He did one called, I believe it's called GI Joe Classified, which is a full length battle movie. That one's available on his YouTube channel. Definitely check it out. Definitely worth seeing. The stuff that Mike puts out is amazing. He also has been doing some shorts that are also available on his YouTube. Let's get him some support to keep him going and producing these kinds of movies. To be honest, his scripts are better than anything Hollywood's put out as far as GI Joe films. They really are. They're really well thought of. They're humorous. They're entertaining. There's action packed. There's death. There's war. He does some very cool customs for vehicles and stuff like that. He does have a very good eye for his props and stuff. He builds it as well as the homage to the original character acting. I believe he tries his best to keep them much like the cartoon voices. He does the voices that he grew up with. Mike has a very eclectic taste when it comes to things like action figures and cartoons and stuff like that. It's when I'm talking to him, I always forget that he's my son's age and not closer to mine. But he does have a very stark appreciation for the nostalgic like GI Joes and stuff like that. He is more into the '90s stuff, and like he's constantly on his YouTube channel. It's a very fun follow. He does action figure hunting videos. He'll show through his collection all the time. His daughter's into collecting. They do some very cool stuff. He's been into our and filmed our customization classes before. They always have, as far as I'm aware, always have a good time at our classes, and it's a good time having him and his daughter. His daughter is hilarious. She has a good time. She has she's a character all her own. So Mike actually took the time this is a fully scripted movie. It's full, like I said before, 2 hour film that he took the time to shoot, edit, voice, pretty much everything. And it's a story of Bazooka. And this takes place after a battle where Bazooka takes a head injury and basically goes on leave for a while to recover from his head injury. And it's the story of it's a little twisted tale of how Bazooka gets kind of suckered into an adventure, more or less. And there's some PG-13, we'll say, humor. It's not too bad. There are some curse words and stuff like that in it. It is a more, I wouldn't say adult oriented, but it's definitely not super kid friendly. Just because there's, I would say maybe PG-13, but very light as far as the curse words and stuff like that. There's no nudity or anything ridiculous like that. There is just some things that are a little bit more colorful than something that would be completely intended for children, I believe. But this is a play motion, which means he moves the figures with his hands. He keeps his hands off camera for the most part. Every now and then you'll catch a glimpse of a bit of his hand, but he did really good in editing this one as opposed to the first film that he did. His first G.I. Joe Classified, you'll see him roll the figures and stuff like that. There's quite a few scenes where you can see the full motion, like his hands moving the figures, but once again, it's the time and the way he's getting his editing down, where he's learning to do this better and better every time. And and I believe if people actually were to go to his Patreon and help motivate him and keep him going, these will only improve. I know he's planning to do another film. Actually, it says it right at the end during the end credits. He does a lot of very hard work on it, and I just wanted to take the time to appreciate what he did in this film. It's scripted very well. He acts it out very well, and it's crazy because one person who is basically voicing or acting out every single one of these characters. Every character has its own characteristics. Like each one is individual. He pokes fun certain things. There's not to throw a big spoiler in or anything. There's a scene where Lieutenant Falcon shows up, and Lieutenant Falcon, for anybody that collects G.I. Joe Classifieds, everybody knows that is probably the worst head sculpt I have ever seen on an action figure. And he has his back to the crowd, and when he turns around, the entire Joe team just shuts up, and they're all like, "What's wrong with his face? Like, that dude's ugly." Like, they just, they poke fun of something that we all as collectors have poked fun out of because it's a horrible head sculpt. But he makes it work. He incorporates a lot of this in his humor. The humor's there. The action's there. It's got drama. It does kind of it keeps you on the edge of your seat. You're wondering what's going to happen next as you go through this film. And like I said, it's something I think that it's scripted better than any of the major motion picture G.I. Joe movies. And it's very much an homage to the old school with a lot of a new style into it. And it makes you kind of want to play with toys. So it's very, very awesome. And I know I use that word way too often, but it's an amazing film. Definitely worth watching. It's worth the $10. People seem to think, I know he had some detractors that had said that $10 was too much. $10 is less than you'd spend at a movie theater. And considering this guy did all this work by himself after work, on his days off, was constantly picking up. Like I said, when I had the brick and mortar store, he would come in all the time, and he was constantly picking up props, and he'd go through some of my loose figures, and he's like, "Oh, this will be good for this," and I would collaborate with him on some ideas and help him, like give him some ideas of how I would make certain characters. Like if he asked me, of course, when he was trying to when he tried to make his Dr. Mindbender, I sat there and tried to help him come through, which his Mindbender came out really good for a custom action figure, and it works in his movies. So he took the time, he made custom dreadnoughts for this movie, and they fit really well. He uses action figures of pretty much, I think there's multiple. I know there's wrestling figures in there. There's G.I. Joe Classifieds. There's probably some Marvel in there. He makes a lot of the sets. Some of them are pieces of play sets and stuff like that. So it's definitely worth the time. Once again, his name is Mike the Hunter. You can find him on YouTube at Mike the Hunter 203. It's $10 well spent. Definitely worth watching. 100% approve this movie. It's so amazing. He does a great job, and here's hoping that he does many more. And in the future, I plan on having him on the on the channel and interviewing him and talking about, because he's been doing hunting videos for quite a while. He's got a really good following on his YouTube. It's way better than ours. But then again, I've only been doing this for a few weeks. But has done hunting videos, and he's a big avid collector of action figures and pretty much anything like nostalgic, mostly 90s stuff is what he does. And I know his daughter's into I believe she's into like Mario Brothers, and I know The Simpsons and stuff like that. So he'll do some collecting with her too as well. And they do some really really good stuff, and it's a good channel, especially if you have kids that are into collecting or want to get into collecting, because you can see how you can collect as a family and have fun. And once again, like I said, definitely go check him out. Give him a follow. Give him a subscribe. You know, tell him we sent you. His name, once again, is Mike the Hunter. You can find him on YouTube at Mike the Hunter 203. And definitely check this movie out. We'll be back on Wednesday with another podcast. So thanks a lot for listening to this bonus episode, folks. Stay classy.